Till now, all the discussions we have made corresponds to solid castings. But what about hollow castings? What about the outcome in which something hollow is required? Now here comes the role of core. Now the core is a component for making hollow casting. Let's understand its uses with this particular example. Let's say you want a desired shape in which a hole is there, as you can see here. Now to create a hole, you need to provide something in between the cavity which will restrict the solidification of the molten metal in that particular place. So for creating a typical hole, we are going to take a cylindrical kind of object, a cylindrical core here, which is itself a solid cylinder. It will be placed inside the cavity. After the pattern has been released and cavity has been generated, it will be placed accordingly where the hole is required. And it will be supported by certain entities that is called as core prints. And these core prints supports the core to be put inside the cavity. Now after the core is placed inside the cavity, the molten metal will be poured, and then the metal will be allowed to solidify, and finally the core will be broken, and which will leave behind the desired hole in the outcome. This core is also made of the same material like that of the mold, but with slight variation. The core are generally made of sand, but it has certain additional values to it. So let's understand the properties of core. It should have good strength, and it should be free from moisture, otherwise the moisture will be released to the molten metal, and we all know the casting defect that is called porosity, just like in case of aspiration, will occur, and hence it has to be moisture free, and hence we can say we can use dry sand for making the core. But we also want the core to be collapsible. It should have good collapsibility, and hence we can use wood powder as well. But using wood powder, porosity might increase, and hence it will decrease the strength of the core. So instead of using wood powder, we use something what we have already discussed: carbon dioxide molding, CO2 molding. We had a small discussion about CO2 molding when we were talking about types of sand molds. But there we talked about making a CO2 mold. But here we are making a core using carbon dioxide molding technique. Now in CO2 molding, dry sand is filled inside the core box. Now this core box is where the core is going to be prepared. When the dry sand is filled inside the core box, we also have something called sodium silicate along with the dry sand. So a mixture of dry sand and sodium silicate is inside the core box. And after that, carbon dioxide gas is passed through it. This CO2 reacts with the sodium silicate present with the dry sand, and it forms a silica gel. And this silica gel is what the core is actually made of in most of the cases. The silica gel have good strength for initial few hours, and after that it itself collapses. It starts decomposing by itself, and when it completely decomposes, the core collapses. and which is very much desirable in creating a hollow casting.